Hello there. Come on in, have a seat. In the 35 years I spent helping folks navigate their money, I've seen it all. I've seen people turn $1,000 inheritance into a dynasty, and I've seen people turn a multi-million-dollar fortune into dust. Most people think the horror stories in retirement are all about the money. They think of a market crash, like in 2008, or a too-good-to-be-true scam, or a company pension that just vanishes. And those things do happen. I've held the hands of clients crying in my office when they did. But the real tragedies, the ones that keep me up at night, even now, they're quieter. They're the unfinancial mistakes. They're the stories of people who did everything right, saved every penny, hit their number, and then found themselves in a special kind of retirement hell. A hell they built themselves, all while thinking they were building their paradise. It's the story of a lovely couple I knew, Arthur and Eleanor Thompson. And it's a story about how you can win the game, get the high score, and still lose everything that matters. It was about 5 years ago. They walked into my office. Arthur and Eleanor. You'd have loved them. Arthur was an engineer for a big defense contractor up in Buffalo, New York. A brilliant man. Methodical. Everything was in a spreadsheet. He could tell you, down to the penny, what their grocery bill was in 1998. He was a numbers guy, the head. Eleanor was a registered nurse, a night shift supervisor at the hospital for 30 years. She was the heart. She was the planner, the one who remembered the birthdays, the one who knew what the kids really needed, not just what they asked for. She was the one who dreamed of a life where no one was calling her in the middle of the night for a code blue. They had been married for 41 years. They raised 2 wonderful, successful children, one in Chicago, one in Seattle. They had done, and I mean this sincerely, everything right. They started saving in their 20s. They maxed out Arthur's 401k every single year, as soon as he was eligible. Eleanor had her 401a from a hospital, plus a small pension that was becoming rarer than a hen's tooth. They'd lived in the same modest, charming, and cold house in a Buffalo suburb for 35 years. They drove their cars until the wheels practically fell off. Arthur slid a beautifully printed, color-coded binder across my desk. "We're here, Grandpa," he said, beaming. He called me Grandpa. Even then, a term of respect, he said. "Here, where, Arthur?" I asked, opening the binder. "The number," he said, as if it were a holy word. And in a spreadsheet, there was, in a big, bold, green-shaded cell, $2,500,000. $2.5 million, Grandpa, Eleanor said, squeezing his hand, plus the pension and the house. We're 63 and 62. It's time, isn't it? I looked at the spreadsheets. They were perfect, impeccable. He had withdrawal rate projections, inflation-adjusted spending, Social Security optimization charts. He'd done the work. Financially, they were golden. They were in the top 1% of savers I'd ever seen. It's an incredible achievement, folks. I said, "Truly, you've earned it. So what's the plan? What's this all for?" Eleanor didn't even hesitate. She pulled a brochure from her bag. The cover was glossy. It showed a blindingly blue swimming pool, a golf course that looked like an emerald carpet, and a couple who looked like they'd never seen a day of work, clinking wine glasses under a palm tree. "Florida," she said, her voice full of a lifetime of postponed dreams. "We are done with snow. We are done with ice and sleet and shoveling the driveway just so we can go to work to shovel more snow. We want to live in that." She pointed to the brochure. The name of the community was Pelican Sound or Heron Bay, or one of those names that promise eternal sunshine. "Our friends, the Millers, moved there last year," Arthur said, jumping in. "They golf 4 times a week. They have a convertible. They say They say it's like being on vacation every single day. Ah, the Millers, the dreaded comparison friends. It's what Warren Buffett's partner, the brilliant Charlie Munger, always worried about. He said, "It is not greed that drives the world, but envy." Arthur and Eleanor weren't greedy, but they were, perhaps, a little envious. They had seen their friend's paradise on Facebook, and they wanted their own. And Eleanor said, "I'm tired. I just want to do nothing. I want to wake up without an alarm clock, read a book by the pool, and not have a single person need me for just 1 year." And there it was, the setup, the perfect financial plan, and a retirement dream built on 3 pillars: sunshine, the Miller's vacation photos, and a desire to do nothing. I tried to gently poke a few holes. "Have you ever spent an August in Florida, folks?" I asked. Arthur laughed. "We're tough, Grandpa. We survive buffalo blizzards. A little heat won't bother us." "And what about health care?" I asked, looking at Eleanor. "Your work gives you amazing benefits. You know the hospital system up here. You know all the best doctors. We're in perfect health," Arthur said, knocking on my wooden desk. "And these communities, they're top of the line. They have everything." "And the doing nothing part," I said, looking at Eleanor. "A smart, capable woman like you. You're the one who runs the show. Are you sure nothing will be enough?" "Oh, it will be," she smiled, but it was a tired smile. "You have no idea how much I've dreamed of nothing." They weren't there for advice, I realized. They were there for a blessing, a stamp of approval, and on paper, I had to give it to them. "Financially," I said, closing the binder, "you are in a magnificent position." That was all they needed to hear. The next 6 months were a blur for them. They put their Buffalo house on the market in the spring. It sold in a weekend for $100,000 over asking. This just poured gasoline on their fire. It felt like the universe was screaming at them to do this. They flew down to Florida for a long weekend. The Pelican Bay, or whatever it was called, was, of course, perfect. It was April. The sun was warm. The humidity was low. And the flowers were in bloom. They were treated like royalty. They had dinner with the Millers, who were tan and laughing. They found their dream house. It was a brand new build, 2,800 square feet, a beautiful lanai with a tiny pool, a gourmet kitchen. It was $850,000, but the zestimate on our Buffalo house was only $500,000. Arthur told me on the phone, "Giddy, we cleared $650,000 after taxes. We can buy this thing almost with cash." "Hold on, Arthur," I said, my voice sharp. "Don't do that. Let's talk about a mortgage, even a small one. Let's not tie up all that liquidity in a non-earning asset. And what about the taxes?" Grandpa, relax," he said. "There's no state income tax in Florida. We're getting a raise just by moving. We'll be fine." He didn't want to listen. He was a man in the grip of a fever. He and Eleanor were so focused on getting to retirement, they had stopped planning for it. They made 2 more critical and common mistakes. First, the house. They bought it from a virtual tour, and their inspection was a 20-minute walkthrough. They didn't see the tiny crack in the foundation. They didn't see that the brand new AC unit was the cheapest model the builder could possibly install. Second, Social Security. Arthur, the numbers guy, saw the money from the house sale and the $2.5 million in his account and felt invincible. "We're just going to take it," he told me. "Me at 63, Eleanor at 62. Just get the cash flow started. It'll pay for our golf membership." I begged him, "Arthur, no. Please. You're an engineer. Look at your own spreadsheets. Every year you wait after your full retirement age, You get an 8% guaranteed raise from the government. That's a return you can't get anywhere in the market. And Eleanor, by claiming at 62, she's locking in a 30% reduction for the rest of her life, not just on her benefit, but on her spousal benefit. I try to explain survivor benefits. Arthur, God forbid, if you pass away first, Eleanor only gets to keep one check. The higher the two. And if you've both taken it early, that check it's a lot smaller. You're making a permanent multi-$100,000 decision for a little golf money today. He wasn't moved. It's our money, Grandpa. We paid in. We want it. They closed on the Buffalo house in June. They closed on the Florida house in July. They moved on August 1st. August, in Florida. The first month they told me was an adjustment. That's the word they use on the phone. An adjustment. What it meant was they stepped outside in the air, which they dreamed of was so thick and what was like breathing hot soup. The humidity, I call it, it's not heat. It's an oppressive, living thing that sucks the energy right out of you. Arthur's new dream golf game, it had to be over by 8:30 a.m. Any later, and it was a medical risk. Eleanor's dream of reading by the pool, she lasted 10 minutes before she was drenched in sweat and being eaten alive by no-see-ums. So they adjusted. They went from their snow prison in Buffalo, where they were trapped indoors for 4 months a year, to a humidity prison in Florida, where they were trapped indoors for 6 months a year. Their dream life became this. Wake up, watch the morning news, have coffee on the lanai until 9 a.m., then retreat into the air conditioning, watch TV, fiddle on the computer, and wait. Wait for the sun to go down. Wait for October. And the doing nothing? It turns out Eleanor was right. She had dreamed of it. But when nothing is all there is, it becomes a new kind of tyrant. Arthur, the engineer, had no problems to solve. His spreadsheets were built. His job was done. Eleanor, the nurse, had no one to take care of. They had spent 40 years in high-stakes, high-pressure jobs, a well-oiled machine. Now the machine was off, and it was starting to rust. The boredom was profound. They started to bicker. Tiny, stupid things. Who left the cap off the toothpaste? Why Arthur was watching another golf tournament. Why Eleanor was sighing all the time. They were two brilliant, capable people with $2.5 million in the bank who had become obsolete, and they were obsolete to each other. Then the financial-only plan began to unravel. The first-year bills started to arrive. Remember how Arthur, the numbers guy, based his retirement budget on his Buffalo cost of living? Remember no state income tax. Well, Florida has to get its money somewhere. Their first property tax bill arrived. In Buffalo, they were paying about $8,000 a year. The new bill on their new $850,000 house was $22,000. How can this be? Arthur yelled at me over the phone. My neighbor, the Miller guy, he's in a bigger house and he's only paying $10,000. That's because the Millers are protected by the Save Our Homes cap. Arthur, I had to explain. It limits the increase in property taxes for existing residents. You, my friend, are a new resident. You are paying the full reassessed Welcome to Paradise rate. Then came the insurance. Their homeowner's insurance in Buffalo was $1,200 a year. The new bill for a house in a hurricane-prone state with a known sinkhole problem? $9,500. But Grandpa, it's a new build. It doesn't matter, Arthur. The roof is still a roof, and the insurance companies are terrified. Then the HOA, the Pelican Bay community. The $300 per month fee they budgeted for was now $500. And there was a special assessment of $5,000 for a new guard gate. And the AIC, that cheap builder's model, ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from May to October, just to keep the house at a livable 76 degrees. Their electric bill, which they budgeted at $150 a month, was $700. Arthur, the man with the perfect spreadsheet, had underestimated his actual cost of living by more than 100%. His $3,000 a month living expense was, in reality, $7,000. And that was before food, gas for the new convertible, or a single round of golf. They were burning through their savings. The 4% rule he was so proud of, they burned through their entire first year's planned withdrawal in the first 5 months. The panic started to set in. Real panic. "We have to sell Arthur," Eleanor said one night, after a particularly brutal electric bill. "We can't," Arthur said, his voice hollow. "The market, it softened. The builder is still building new homes, and he's offering incentives. We'd lose money. After the realtor fees, we'd lose $100,000. They were trapped. House rich, cash poor, and hot. This is the part of the story that's hardest to tell. This is where the unfinancial mistake became a life or death one. Eleanor, you see, had always had a bit of rheumatoid arthritis. It was managed. She had a team of doctors in Buffalo she'd known for 20 years. A specialist, a physical therapist. They knew her. They had a plan. The stress of the move, the financial panic, the dampness of the air. It triggered a flare-up. But this wasn't like her old flare-ups. This was a monster. Her hands swelled so badly she couldn't hold a coffee cup. Her knees locked. Within a week, she was in a wheelchair. It's fine, she told Arthur, her voice tight with pain. Just get me an appointment. I need to see a rheumatologist." Arthur, terrified, got on the phone, and he ran face first into the brick wall of paradise, the wall that the brochures never talk about. He called the A-rated hospital system. "Yes, we have several wonderful rheumatologists." The receptionist chirped. "The earliest new patient appointment, let's see, is in 6 months. 6 months. Arthur yelled, "My wife is in a wheelchair. She's a nurse. She needs help now." "I'm sorry, sir. We are very busy. All of our doctors are." He tried another, and another. He found the same log jam everywhere. All these wonderful, sunny retirement towns. They had 500,000 retirees and about 5 specialists to care for them. In Buffalo, Eleanor was a VIP. She was Eleanor from the night shift. She could get an appointment with a top doctor in a day, just by making a call. In Florida, she was just a number, a name on a 6-month waiting list. It was the final straw. The dream was dead. This wasn't paradise. It was a sun-drenched, palm tree-lined trap. They lasted 1 more month. Arthur called me. He wasn't giddy this time. He sounded broken. "Grandpa," he said, we made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. We're selling. We're taking the loss. I don't care. We're leaving." "Where you going?" I asked, my heart breaking for them. "Back to Buffalo?" "No," he said, and I heard Eleanor crying in the background. We can't. We sold the house. Our friends were too embarrassed. And all our doctors are, God, I don't know. They sold the dream house for an $80,000 loss. They sold the convertible. They packed up what was left of their dream and moved into a small, rented apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Why Charlotte? Because it was halfway between their old life in Buffalo and their new nightmare in Florida. Halfway between their kids. And because it had a world-class hospital system where Eleanor could finally get an appointment. I see that story in my head Every time a new client comes in with a brochure, Arthur and Eleanor did everything right financially, but they failed the retirement part. They made 3 classic, unfinancial mistakes, and you have to promise me you won't make them. First, they never test drove the dream. They bought a 30-year decision based on a 3-day vacation. They went in April. They should have gone in August. Never, ever buy a retirement home without renting there first. For a full, miserable season, rent for a full, wet, sticky August in Florida. Rent for a full, dark, freezing January in the mountains. See if you really love it or if you just love the idea of it. Second, they planned their finances, but they didn't plan their life. Eleanor's dream of doing nothing was a nightmare in disguise. As humans, we need purpose. It's what Charlie Munger meant by invert, always invert. Instead of asking, what will make my retirement perfect? Arthur should have asked, what will ruin our retirement? And the answer would have been boredom, isolation, and bad health. You must have a plan for your day, not just your dollar. What will you do when the alarm clock doesn't ring? If you can't answer that question, you are not ready to retire, no matter what your bank account says. And third, and this is the one that gets M, they forgot that the tax man cometh, and so does the doctor. They saw no state income tax and thought they'd hit the jackpot. They didn't realize that states make their money one way or another. It's a shell game. No income tax? Fine. Get ready for sky-high property taxes, sales taxes, and insurance premiums. You must look at the total tax burden, not just the one shiny line item. And healthcare. Before you move, you must research the healthcare law jam. Call the specialists you need. Ask them, what is your wait time for a new patient? If it's more than a month, you do not move there. Your health is your real wealth. It doesn't matter if you have $10 million in the bank, if you're on a 6-month waiting list for a doctor who can save your life. Arthur and Eleanor, they're doing okay now. Their apartment is small. They had to go back to work, part-time, to cover the gap in their finances from the house debacle. Arthur is a consultant, and Eleanor works at a clinic a few days a week. And you know what? She told me, the last time we spoke, she's happier. She has a purpose again. They're not on vacation. They're just living. Don't let a glossy brochure sell you a bill of goods. As Ben Graham, the father of value investing, said, the investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. Don't let your dream blind you to the reality. Do the real homework, the unfinancial homework. It's the only way to make sure your paradise isn't a trap